what are we seeing here? Is that we have a responsibility to stay focused on what we're doing, that we have a responsibility to keep up with what Elohim is doing. And give me just a second so I can catch up with myself, because I've gotten way ahead of myself. Okay. So in this, we go back and we compare Devarim 12:32 and Matthew 5:18. When we consider the Torah of truth was in his mouth and unrighteousness was not found in his lips, he walked with me in peace and in straightness, and turned many away from crookedness. For the lips of the priest should guard knowledge, and they should seek the truth of the Torah from his mouth, like we just said. That is what we should be able to guard it. But he says, you have turned from the way, you have caused many to stumble in Torah. You have corrupted the covenant of Levi, says Yahuwah of hosts. And in this, we consider what Moses warned that he was warning them through the Torah, and it's in Devarim 13 Torah, in our King Jimmy and everything else. It's going to be in Devarim 12:32, that says, keep my commandments. Don't change anything. Don't add to it. Don't take away from it. And then in Matthew 5:18 and 19, Yahshua is saying that until heaven and earth pass away, not one little bit of the Torah is going to change. Those who teach otherwise will be called worse in the kingdom of heaven. But he says before that, don't think that I came to change the Torah, to destroy the Torah. I came to fulfill it, to show you how to live by it. Okay? So we go on in verse 9 that says, and I also, I shall make you despised and low before all people, because you are not guarding my ways and are showing partiality in the Torah. Now what is, if we have a responsibility to keep his instruction, and we have a responsibility to teach people that they have instruction according to the word, and we minister to people by using the word to help them, then what happens when we begin to show partiality? Then we begin to say, well, this is okay and this is okay, when the word says clearly it's not okay. What are we doing? Well, we're violating that commandment at Devarim, not to add to it or take away from it. Isha showed partiality because she didn't pay attention to the word. She took away, she added to, she fabricated. Whereas Joshua stood on what the word says and rebuked the Satan until he was able to tell him to leave. Have we not all one Father? Did not one El create us? Why do we act treacherously against one another to profane the covenant of the fathers? Yehuda has acted treacherously, and an abomination has been done in Israel and in Jerusalem, for Yehuda has profaned what is set apart to Yahuwah, which he had loved, and has married the daughter of a foreign mighty one. Let Yahuwah cut off from the tents of Yaakov the man who does this, stirring up or answering and bringing an offering to Yahuwah of hosts. And this you have done a second time. You cover the altar of Yahuwah with tears and weeping and crying, because he no longer regards the offering, nor receives it with pleasure from your hands. And you said, why? Because Yahuwah has been a witness between you and the wife of your youth, against whom you have acted treacherously, though she is your companion and the wife of your covenant. And did he not make one? And he had the remnant of the Spirit. And what is it, the one alone? He seeks the seed of Elohim. So you shall guard your spirit, and let none act treacherously against the wife of his youth. For I hate divorce, says Yahweh Elohim of Israel. The one who covers his garment with cruelty, says Yahweh of hosts, so shall you guard your spirit, and do not act treacherously. Well, let's just go on and finish it. You have wearied Yahweh with your words, and you have said, in what way have we wearied him? in that you say everyone who does evil is good in the eyes of Yahweh, and he is delighting in them? Or, where is the Elohim of right ruling? So, here in this case, Elohim begins to compare idolatry and straying from the Torah of Yahweh Elohim. He begins to compare it to adultery, and he compares it to divorce. The wife is the Torah. That the wife of our youth has always been the instruction of Elohim. That is our companion. That is what, basically, it's our better half that guides us, teaches us, comforts us, just like a husband would comfort a wife or a wife would comfort a husband. Torah comforts us in our time of need. But what do we do when we betray the Torah? What do we do when we separate ourselves from the Torah? It's just like a divorce. And he says that he hates divorce. When we stray after another doctrine, or we stray after another Elohim. Now the following verse from chapter 3 are an illustration of Yahshua. See, I am sending my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And the master whom you seek will suddenly come to his temple, and the messenger of the covenant, whom you delight in, behold, he comes, says Yahweh of hosts. If we consider Yochanan 1:14, that the Word became flesh and made his tabernacle among us, then we understand that this was Yahshua that came to his temple. And we see, behold, I send my messenger, and he shall clear a way before me, that this is referring to Yochanan the Immerser, but it's also referring to us, that we have the responsibility for clearing the way now before the coming again of Yahshua. That we have a responsibility, the same responsibility that Yochanan had. What was he doing? He was saying, repent, turn around, make teshuvah, pay attention to the word of Elohim. And then his immersion, his mikvah, was for people to make teshuvah, to recognize that they had fallen into transgression, and that's why they were going to the mikvah, so that they could come up out of the transgression. Also, it says that let's see, the Word became flesh and made a tabernacle among us. But now, in the next verse, it says, but who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appears? For he is like a refiner's fire and like a fuller's soap. It's here that we consider Matthew 5:17, and, well, let me go over there right quick and just read it from here. Matthew 5:17, where he says, do not think that I came to destroy the Torah or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to complete. He is a refiner's fire that's going to clean the silver. And we read that in verse 3. It says, and he shall sit as a refiner and a purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, and there shall be they that shall offer unto Yahweh offerings in righteousness. So what are we seeing? First of all, silver, that's redemption. And it is here that we see that this redemption will be better than that of the Levites. Okay, we said that the Levitical law required the sacrifices of animals. And the Levitical law had a curse of death for not keeping Torah. But with the blood of Yahshua, the sacrifices of animals is no longer necessary. And also, the curse of sin and death is removed, in that this is now better than that what the Levites had, in that we are now in the order of Melchizedek, the priesthood of Melchizedek, where now we have to make a choice, just like we had in the beginning, to keep the word of Elohim because we want to, out of faith and out of love, and accept Yahshua, accept the gift of redemption, deliverance from sin and death, and restoration that came from Yahweh. So if we see that, then we understand that this redemption is better than that of the Levites. It will be one that restores us as well. Gold is a representation of Elohim's restoration and covering. At this time we will be able to offer to Yahweh Elohim directly. And as we see in the next verse, Yahweh will rejoice as he did in the days of old and in ancient years. His delight is like the delight that was with us in the garden. We say Garden of Eden. It's a hedge of protection as garden, but Eden means delight. That those days of old and ancient years precede the time of the fathers. This was the time in the beginning when we walked together with Elohim in the garden in the breeze of the day and had that type of relationship. That's what is to be restored. Then verse 4 says, Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto Yahweh, as in the days of old, as in ancient years. So in verse 6, we're going to see that everything is not rosy. As we get to verse 6, we'll go here. We'll start at verse 5. And I shall draw near to you with a right ruling, and I shall be a swift witness against the practicers of witchcraft, and against the adulterers, against them that swear a falsehood, and against those who oppress the wage earner in his wages, and the widows and the fatherless, and those who turn away the sojourner. And do not fear me, said Yahweh of hosts. That's a mouthful. For I am Yahweh, I shall not change, and you sons of Jacob shall not come to an end. So when we take a look at this, things are not totally rosy, because there's still going to be a problem with wickedness. The wicked will still be dealt with according to his word. Be it Yahshua, or be it anyone who carries forth the message of Yahweh, his representative. Okay? He will still deal with the wicked, those who reject his messenger, whether it is rejecting Yahshua or rejecting anyone who carries the message forth as a representative of Yahweh Elohim. Okay? Verse 7, however, illustrates Yahweh Elohim's patience with Yaakov. Those who still live in deception, insisting on supplanting the word of Yahweh, Elohim says that they will not come to an end. If Yahshua said, until heaven and earth pass away, then we have to understand that as long as one is living, teshuvah can be made. Okay, so even if people are still in deception and living within falsehoods that have been supplanted, they still have an opportunity to hear the message. They still have an opportunity to be represented before Elohim by the ministers and the teachers that walk in the righteousness of Elohim, to help them to find a way, to find their way to the truth where they can make teshuvah. So the lifetime of a human being is very important, that we can use it correctly, or in a sense we can waste it. But once we're dead, we're dead. There is no making teshuvah after you've passed on. So Yahweh says, return to me and I will return to you. Stubborn refusal to acknowledge the Torah of Yahweh. When he asks, how, in what shall we return? Verses 11 and 12 tells us of the blessing and the provision to be had in giving our all, our best to Yahweh Elohim. Verse 11 says, and I shall rebuke the devourer for you. He will rebuke the devourer for us. He will fight the battle for us if we will cling to him, so that he does not destroy the fruit of your ground, nor does the vine fail to bear fruit for you in the field, says Yahweh of hosts. And all nations shall call you blessed, for you shall be a land of delight, said Yahweh of hosts. Again, we are a land of delight. If we say that we are Hadamah, that we come from Hadamah, and that we are fertile soil for planting, that we bear fruit, then Elohim will allow us and protect us from the one that comes and takes the fruit away from us, if we will simply yield to his word and pay attention to what it says. If we don't, then how can we be fruitful? How can we continue to bear fruit if we stray? And all the nations shall call you blessed, for you shall be a land of delight. Again, if we are his delight, then we are walking with him in the garden. Your words have been harsh against me, says Yahweh, but you have said, what have we spoken against you? You have said, it is worthless to serve Elohim. And what did we gain when we guarded his charge, and when we walked as mourners before Yahweh of hosts? And now we are calling the proud blessed, but not only the doers of wrongness built it up, but they also try Elohim and escape. What is this? What do we see in this? It gives us an example of those that are becoming reprobate and falling away from Elohim, thinking they are in good graces, while they're falling farther and farther away. People, the frog analogy, you put a frog in lukewarm water and you turn up the heat. Pretty soon the water's boiling and the frog didn't even notice. And that's where a lot of people's relationship is with Yahweh Elohim today. That it's like Yahshua said, you worship what you don't understand, but people insist on continuing in that. They don't, I say that people leave their Bibles in the car on Sunday because they're going to have to take it out of the car next Sunday anyway, so why bother? And that's the relationship that leads to being the frog in the water, that eventually it's boiling and it's too late to jump out. So gives us an example of those becoming reprobate and falling away from Elohim that don't even recognize that they're falling away from Elohim. Verse 16, then shall those who fear Yahweh speak to one another, and Yahweh will listen and hear, and a book of remembrance be written before him of those who fear or reverence Yahweh and those who think upon his name. Upon his name, we think about Psalm verse 1, that blessed is the man, the person that thinks about the word of Elohim and meditates on it day and night, that he will be like the tree planted by the streams of water, that his leaf doesn't wither because he's well watered and he produces fruit. Then he goes on to say, and they shall be mine, says Yahweh of hosts, on the day that I prepare a treasured possession. So if we esteem his name, if we build our relationship with him, if we draw close to Elohim, he says, they shall be mine. They will be a treasured possession, and I will spare them as a man spares his own child who serves him. So again, we go back to the idea that we become the children of Elohim. We become B'nai Elohim. We become established and restored by our mighty judge, who has the authority to bring us redemption, deliverance, restoration, and rest. But the choice is ours to do it. Now, we've seen this as a positive. Then he goes on to say, then you shall again see the difference between the righteous and the wrong, between one who serves Elohim and one who does not serve him. Now, he's just given us a positive. Now he's going to start giving us a negative. And this is something that we need to pay attention to if we're going to understand the verse in question, the one about the Son of Righteousness. It says, for look, the day shall come burning like a furnace, and all the proud and every wrongdoer shall be stubble. And the day shall come, shall burn them up. And Yahweh of hosts, which leaves to them neither root nor branch. Now, this is important, that everything will be burned up. That they will be burned like stubble. Nothing will be left, not a root nor a branch. They will be separated totally from Yahweh, his Torah, and his redemption. Okay? When we throw grass stubble into the fire, what happens to the grass stubble? It burns. It's destroyed. There's nothing left. It's ash. And this is the fate of the wicked, that they will be totally consumed. There will be no redemption. There will be no Torah. There will be no relationship with Elohim. It will all be gone. The root and the branch the root being Torah and Yahuwah, the branch being the redemption that comes from Yahshua, will be totally consumed in the fire. Now, that leaves us with the verse in question. But to you who fear my name, the Son of Righteousness shall arise with healing in his wings, and you shall go out and leap for joy like calves from the stall. And you shall trample the wrongdoers, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet on the day that I do this, says Yahuwah of hosts. So let's take a look at this, that verse 19 talks about a furnace that is very hot and will destroy the wicked like stubble. Nothing will be left, not root or branch. They will be separated totally from Yahweh, like we've said. The heat from this blaze carries over to verse 20, where we read about the Son of Righteousness. Like we said, we could say that this word is supposed to be shamash, that means servant, instead of shemesh, which is son, because they're both written the same way in Hebrew. But then we'd miss the point. The Proto-Sinaitic of this word shemesh means an extremely hot wind. So in this we can formulate an idea that those who esteem the name of Yahweh will be restored by the burning hot wind that destroys wickedness. Okay? In this they will be restored to the blessing in the wings. The zitzit that represent the Torah of Yahweh Elohim, his word. In Bamidbar we read, speak, and this is Bamidbar 15:38-41. It says, speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them throughout their generations zitzit in the corner of their garment, and they put with the zitzit of each corner a thread of blue. And it shall be unto you for a zitzit, that you may look upon it and remember the commandments of Yahweh and do them, and that you not go about after your own heart or your own eyes, after which you used to go astray. That you may remember and do all my commandments and be set apart unto your Elohim. I am Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your Elohim. I am Yahweh your Elohim. So we can equate the last part of verse 21 that says what? It says that you will go out and leap for joy like calves from the stall. When you release calves from being pent up and they get to go out into the field, well, they run around, they run, they eat, it looks like they're enjoying themselves. But we equate that to this idea that we are set free from bondage, and we trample the wickedness that has been consumed by the fire of Yahweh Elohim. Verse 41 here in Bamidbar said, I am Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your Elohim. I am Yahweh your Elohim. Egypt is often called the fiery furnace. So we are brought out of the furnace. We avoid the furnace, but the fire that's burning the wicked comes in our direction. But that fire is righteousness to us. And because of that, we hold on to the blessings found in the word of Elohim. And because of that, we run around with joy, trampling the ashes of the wicked. So, in doing this, the balance of the book becomes self-explanatory. That it says, remember the Torah of Moshe, my servant, which I commanded him in Horeb for all of Israel, laws and right rulings. See, I am sending you Eliah, the prophet, before the coming of the great and awesome day of Yahweh. And he shall turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers. Then he comes back with one more warning. Lest I come and smite the earth with utter destruction. So let's go back. We do not simply seek, but we proclaim Eliah. That means my El is Yahuwah. My mighty one is everything at every time to me. He is Yahuwah. This has to be our perception before the great and awesome day of Yahuwah. That we're not just looking for Elijah This isn't just a prophecy about the coming of Elijah that was Yochanan the Immerser that was preceded Yeshua. But now, in this helical time, what is it telling us? That we have to perceive that my mighty one is Yahuwah, that I perceive him in everything at every time, and that he is Yahuwah my Elohim. This has to be our perception before the great and awesome day of Yahweh, before the end comes, when wickedness is finally done away with the blast of the furnace that basically burns everything up except that that's within the city, partaking of the tree of life. When we read that in Revelation 22:14 and 15. So if our hearts do not change, then we will succumb to the end mentioned in the final verse here of Malakhi, that unless I come and smite the earth with utter destruction. So our perception has to be in the right place. Our relationship has to be in line. That was kind of confusing, and here and there I get ahead of myself sometimes, and I look down and I say, oh no, where am I? But these are for you to keep, these copies of Malakhi, and we'll try to compile the prophets as we go along. Any questions on this? I'm sure there's loads of questions, and no tomatoes coming this way yet, so we're good.
Well, I do have a question.
Okay.
We're talking about the furnace and all that. Is that where they get the hell from? Is that where they get that he's destroying it? You know, he came by flood.
Yeah.
We've all been taught that it was going to be fire next.
Yeah, I guess in a way that,
Is that where it comes?
you know, we get the idea that he will destroy everything by fire. He will destroy the world by fire, but
I'm saying, is that what that?
yeah, the reality is that he's going to destroy the wicked by fire. We get the idea, I think it's in 2 Peter, that we get the idea of the world being annihilated by fire. But he also talks about a new heavens and a new earth. And if we say that from our conversation that we are taken to a place where we're preserved while destruction takes place for the new heavens and the new earth, and then returned to the garden as it should have been, then we can understand that it's not an eternal hellfire. Hell is it's a Norse myth to start with. The Catholic Church just built up on it, and they used the word Gehenna, which is the valley outside of Jerusalem where they would throw the bodies, and naturally the worm would not die because there's always dead bodies. Fire's constantly burning in order to burn the bodies, to burn the dead animals, to burn the awful, that they saw this unquenchable fire that's there. Oftentimes the unquenchable fire and Gehenna are confused back and forth, because there's also where it talks about the Ruach HaKodesh as being an unquenchable fire as well. But it's been confused into the whole hell concept. The hell concept of fire and brimstone and burning forever in hell was used by the church early on to bring fear into the people so that they would basically stay under the bondage of the church, and so that they would bring offerings to the church. If your mother dies, your father dies, well, they're in hell, but you can buy this cup of holy water for $5, and that'll move your loved one out of hell into purgatory. And if you buy this one and you get this one at 50% off, then you can move your loved one from purgatory into heaven, and then just make payments on the hotel or apartment that they have in heaven for however long, you know. But this is how the church made its money in the beginning. When we read Scripture, we have absolutely no basis for an eternal hellfire. There is a... Yeah, that's...
You know, I always heard the people say the lake of the, you know, the lake of fire, and that.
Yeah, Well, we talk about the lake of fire and stuff. That's a totally different teaching that would take more time. But in Peter, he will destroy the world by fire. He's talking about destroying the world of wickedness